Welcome back to another episode of Memory Card, Nerd Initiative's retro nostalgia video game conversation show. This is episode number 6. I'm your host, as always, Cody Collects, and here with me, we have a very special guest, someone I met earlier this year in Chicago. I'm happy to have him on. He's got the voice of an angel. We've got Mickey, or Cell Phone Wallet Keys. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, dude. It's been a while since Chicago, but it also feels like it was just, I don't know, like last month or something.
I know, right? Like,
crazy how that works.
Flying.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, so I didn't know this, Mickey, but you're a pretty big video game fan. Am I right?
I mean, I am. Like, I was raised on them.
Yeah, dude. So I think that's the perfect place to start, as always, with the first question. What was your first video game console? And people are going to be surprised when they hear your answer, maybe.
Yeah, you can see the gray in my beard and my hair, so it's going to be an Atari, actually.
Nice.
Playing Pong and even the old ET game. I played all that stuff, man. Like, I was an Atari fanatic.
Dude, okay, so that is so awesome. So the last couple of guests I've had, I had Derek on, Paperweight Entertainment.
Uh-huh.
And he said that he had an Atari like in his household, but he was like way too young to be playing it. So you're the first guest that like played the Atari, man. So I got to hear.
Mean, I was probably like 5 years old, but I remember vividly playing Donkey Kong, Centipede, all that stuff, like Space Invaders, all on an Atari.
Okay, dude. So you got to tell me though, how did you get this thing? Right? Was it like a birthday present, or what's going on with it?
Yeah, it was actually kind of like a family member had it and just kind of like, we don't want it. Do you guys want this? And my dad was like, yeah, we'll take it. And I mean, I just played the crap out of it. I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
Nice, dude. So when about was this? You said you were like 5-ish, but
yeah. So that would be like, oh man, make me feel old. So like, it'd be like 88, 87, 88, maybe.
Nice.
Like, actually, I think NES was coming out about the same time, so it was kind of old. I was getting like a hand-me-down sort of thing, but
gotcha. Gotcha, dude. So okay, the next question I've got for you, and you actually mentioned it. So you were playing E.T. That stuck out to me when you mentioned all the games that you were playing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Can you just tell me like what the experience was like? Because like nowadays, looking back on it, right? Like you can find old videos and like it looks bad, but I've never had hands on with ET, so
I mean it was just basic, man. It was just
yep.
You know, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of difficulty to it or anything. It was just
right.
You're kind of like playing through a very bare bones skeleton version of the movie.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot going on, but to me, I was a big ET fan of the movie too.
Gotcha.
To me, I was like, oh, this is awesome, but it really wasn't.
Dude, yeah, I don't know, just because I know obviously the Atari had a lot of arcade game ports, and you mentioned some of them. I think that's probably maybe what the Atari is best known for is some of those ports. You rattled off like some of the games, but what were like, I don't know, some of like the big your favorites from the Atari?
I mean, it was probably like the original Super Mario Brothers was on Atari as well, which is kind of like the platformer where you're running back and forth. That's the one I can remember playing a lot. That and Donkey Kong. Like you say, it was an arcade port, but those are the ones I was playing all the time. There was some other titles that I may have probably played with some friends that came over that brought a game, but they weren't so great that I could remember them. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha, yeah.
And I mean, we played a ton of Pong too, but it was very basic.
Dude, I don't know. Listen, I've always been a fan of wood panels on like my electronics. I hope it makes a comeback. I think there's something about it, man. I don't know.
I'd buy it.
So okay, so you had an Atari. You played, a couple of the more popular games. What was, I guess, like your next console? Like, did it take you a while before you jump into your next one, or did you like upgrade right away?
It was like a couple years later. Actually, I think it was my 7th birthday, if I remember correctly, that my parents bought me an NES.
Nice.
And it was just Mario and Duck Hunt at the time. That's pretty much all we were playing. until we could afford to buy another game. But I just wore out Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt for the longest time as a 7-year-old.
Hey man, they're classics for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. Like if you look at like the history of like pack-in games, I mean, there's something. I mean, you got Mario. Like it's just like one of the best pack-in games of all time, right?
Absolutely.
So you get hours and hours of entertainment out of that thing. So moving into the NES era, then did you obviously you're a big movie fan. You said you like E.T. Were you big into like the kind of tie-in games? Like, because I know obviously NES had so many different properties showcased on the system. I was curious if you.
A lot with the NES. I don't remember playing a lot of movie tie-in games on that. Most of it was like the hits like Mario, Zelda, Bomberman, Metroid, all that stuff. I remember playing the first Metal Gear on NES and Olympics and John Elway quarterback. I forgot the name of the. There was a couple of different football games that I would play, and baseball and Mario Golf. I played a lot of stuff, but I don't remember playing a lot of like movie tie-in games on NES.
You gotta hold on a second. Sorry, my tortoise is like trying to break out of his cage thing.
You're fine.
I gotta save him real quick.
Go ahead.
That's crazy, man. Stick him in the closet. All right, let's see. Okay, yeah. So we're talking about the NES and some of the games you were playing. I don't know, man. Just looking back on the NES, it's just I never had one myself. I mentioned that in the previous episode, but okay. How about this, dude? Tell me about the controller, right? Because going from the Atari to like the NES controller, I mean, that must have been a little crazy, right?
I mean, yeah, you got a D-pad and an extra button, and then a start and a select, and I'm like, this is wild, man. This is awesome. And you think about how many buttons are on a controller now, but a D-pad and 2 buttons, we were living the dream.
Nice, dude. Yeah, 100%. Oh, so I'm always curious too. Like, I'm not familiar. Did you have like a bunch of siblings you had to like compete with for screen time, or?
There was a pretty big gap between me and my little brother of 8 years. So he didn't come along until like the end of the Super Nintendo and the beginning of the N64 eras, when we kind of like had the N64 is when we really started vying for time on the console.
Yeah, dude. I imagine so like the N64 too. If we're talking about controllers, that controller is just whack, dude.
That was something else. It blew my mind. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Just looking at it, you're like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. Like, obviously, those that aren't familiar, I don't know how you aren't, but the N64 controller is the classic like 3-handle thing. Was it the first console to have a D-pad?
Joystick?
Maybe not the first one, but definitely around the first one.
Yeah, that joystick in the middle was very interesting. But someone who grew up playing with the D-pad, it was very hard to get used to not using the D-pad.
Yeah, and then the joystick on the N64 would like, if you spin it super fast playing like Mario Party, like burning your palm.
We wore those things out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know, dude. So like we're talking about N64. My favorite game from that generation. I mean, you gotta give a shout out to Mario 64. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. What are some like so you mentioned you had an N64. What were like some of your favorite N64 games? Because for me, that's when like gaming was like gaming. You know what I mean? Like you got the 3D and everything.
Yeah, it changed the game. Obviously, Mario 64 was wild. Like this 3D world. Other than the camera being a pain in the butt, like it was still like an amazing game. And then not long after that, I think around the same time they also released like the Star Fox game, which was a lot of fun. And then eventually you had, you know, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which, I mean, it took it from what was like, wow, this is really cool, to like, wow, this is really cool. Like, it fully maximized the system and the controls like capabilities, which was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, so even just the games you listed there, I mean, you have the full range of like when they were first starting to figure out like a camera, you know what I mean, just in general, and then all the way to Ocarina of Time when they not nailed it like 100%, but you know, it's definitely, you know, making leaps and bounds within that console generation, right? Yeah, I think that's super cool. Yeah. So you know, you touched on it. You mentioned Legend of Zelda. I'm curious because one of the video game memories you wrote in, you have a special memory associated with Ocarina of Time.
Right.
I was wondering if you could share that with us.
Yeah. So when the game came out, you know, I had played Legend of Zelda. I had played Link to the Past. I had played Link's Awakening, and The Adventures of Link was the second one. But anyway, I had played all of those up to that point, and I mean, I loved them. You know, they were great games. And then there was this new thing. It was different. It was a little different, obviously. It was very different. So we started playing it, and like from the moment I started playing it, I was like in awe of what I was doing, and I was so hooked. Like, it had its hooks in me immediately, so much that like that was when I really started like binge gaming. Like, I'm gonna sit here for 4 to 5 hours just playing this one game, and you know, at times not doing anything, just really just like messing around. And so like, and it was also a very hard game, to the point where we went and got the gamer guide.
Nice.
For especially like the water temple. I was having a hard time with that back then, and I locked myself in that room for like a day until I finished. Once I got that gamer guide, it was on. It was on.
Dude, oh man. Okay, so you just unlocked so many different memories associated with those gamer guides, man.
They were so wild back then. You know, we I don't want to sound like a boomer here, but we didn't have the internet back in my day. So like, if you had a hard time with a game, you either had to have a buddy that figured it out, or you had to go get the gamer guide. And they also had like a Nintendo hotline, but we weren't going to pay for me to do that.
Right.
But the gamer guides, they were awesome. The Nintendo Power magazines, they were awesome. Those things were a wealth of knowledge.
Dude, okay. So what were gamer guides like? Was that like something that you would buy only if you were stuck, or were like you buying like a bunch of gamer guides just to?
I mean, some people were just, you know, it was almost part of the fandom, right? Like, I have the game, I have the gamer guide, I have the merchandise. Like, I've got it all. Like, this is my game. You're a collector of sorts. Of course, now you're a retro collector if you have those things, but that's what it really was. And it was cool because you would take those things to school or show them to some friends and be like, look what I got. And you guys would just like huddle up around it and like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. And it was just mind blowing.
Yeah, dude. And then the second thing you mentioned there, and I'm glad you did, Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, I used to love getting. So I got Nintendo Power. Like, I want to say I got it up until like they stopped doing it. I really want to say that because I was pretty big in like in the Wii era. That was kind of okay. Maybe that's like my N64. Like I was of that age, right, where I'm starting to understand and binging games like you mentioned with Ocarina. Mm-hmm. Dude, I love Nintendo Power, man. Were you like a early adopter of Nintendo Power, or did you only get like, you know, ones or twos here and there?
I only got like ones or twos here and there because I couldn't get my parents to like subscribe. So like, if I was at a convenience store or magazine store or comic book store, wherever we would go, and they would have it, I would like, you know, beg for that. And especially if it had a featured game that I really wanted to know more about or learn something about. So it was a rare occurrence that I could get them. And like, if a friend got one you didn't have, you guys would like trade off or like let each other borrow it. It was just a cool time, and Nintendo Power was awesome back then.
Yeah, dude. I always loved too when it came with I think every issue came with a poster, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It did, yes.
Yeah, dude. That was cool. My
Yeah.
my room is just covered in all these weird Nintendo Power stuff.
Yeah.
So Mickey, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were video games like the first, I guess like the first thing that you started collecting like actively? Because obviously, if people go to your TikTok and stuff, they know that you're a pretty big collector. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I was collecting action figures first, but not knowing. I was just buying toys to play with.
Right.
But I was also like checking them off on the back. Like I got this one, this one, this one. I had to have them all. And then it kind of, as you got older, the social standard is you don't play with toys anymore. And I'm like, okay, so I'll play with video games though. That's kind of cool. And it was a collection thing. Like a game would come out, and I was like, I gotta have it, or I would trade with someone. Like, I got this game, I want that game, you want this game, you want to trade. So it was a cool system, and it was a collecting thing, because a lot of times, and also back then, it was really hard to find like some rare games or some games that people hadn't heard of but were actually a lot of fun. And yeah, it just became a thing of like finding that game. Like, I found this game, and a lot of times it would be like you rented it from a video store, and you would find out like, oh man, this game is great, and you would share it with your friends, and then it would kind of become a big thing. So yeah, and if you really liked it, you would try to buy it. So yeah.
Nice, dude. Yeah, that's cool. So I will say, Mickey, right? So reading your questionnaire, it surprised me a lot when you mentioned what your favorite game of all time is, and I say that just because it's it's relative. It's what, 2 generations away or something like that.
It's not.
So I was wondering if you could tell me, a little bit about your favorite game of all time.
So we're talking about Mass Effect, right?
Yeah, man.
Mass Effect was just, it was a random discovery for me. So
okay.
I had an Xbox 360, I think is when it came out. And it was this game that would sit on the shelf all the time, and I'd see it when I was in like GameStop or wherever, and I'd be like, I don't know, it don't really look like my thing, Let me go over here and look at Mortal Kombat, or let me go over here and look at Madden, or whatever, 2K, whatever it was. And I had a friend actually at work who just was like, man, it's a really good game. You should give it a try. I like it. And one day I just went in there, and I think it was like on sale, like really cheap, because at that time it was probably like a year or two old, or it had been released, and it didn't have a lot of press either. Like, I hadn't heard of it. I hadn't seen a commercial for it.
Right.
So I was like, sure, man, it's like cheap. I'll try it out. And it took me like maybe like an hour of playing before I realized I was like, I'm all about this. The dialogue options, the weapon systems, the RPG trees, like the skill trees. I hadn't really played a whole lot like that. I'd played a few things like that, but not on this level of depth, and especially with like lore and world building. I found myself just walking around talking to people and looking at things and having a great time. And then, every now and then I would play a story point, and I would get so excited. And that was like one of the first games in a while that when I finished it, I went back and I played it again because I liked it so much.
Nice.
And I think I've, over time, I think I've played through probably like 4 times. And I mean, I make a lot of the same choices because I have a hard time being a bad guy in a video game. I don't know why.
So I was just about to ask you. So like, for those of you that don't know out there, like not Bioshock, freaking, what are we talking? Mass Effect, my bad. Is known for like making these choices. It's Paragon if you're the bad choices or whatever, and then I forgot what the good one is.
It's a Renegade. Well, it's a Renegade if you're bad. If you do, if you're
right,
an anti-hero, I guess.
Yeah.
A Paragon if you're like the babyface superhero.
Yeah, so that's so funny. So when you mentioned that you would do replays, my next question was literally going to be like, Oh, did you like switch your role? Like, did you, kind of switch your mindset while you're playing? But that's so funny to hear that.
It's funny because I would go into it saying, all right, I'm going to play through as a renegade this time. And I would get the stuff and I'd be like, nah, I can't do it, man. I got to make the Paragon choice. I would make a few renegade choices sometimes, but if it was something, I didn't want to let anyone die or like anything bad happen to anybody that was cool. So I'd be like, nah, man, I got to make the right choice here.
So would you say that you're a pretty big fan of the entire franchise itself, or maybe just like the first game?
Actually, I think Mass Effect 2 is probably even a better game.
Okay.
Just the elements they introduced of how you could like search planets for elements. You didn't necessarily have to go down on it with your little rover. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now, but that game was fun. It introduced a lot of new things, some new races, and like some interesting story points that built on the I'm drawing a blank on everything in this game right now.
It's like one of those sci-fi games where all the names and stuff are like made up, so it's not.
Oh, what were the bad guys called? The big giant Leviathan cyborg. I
can't remember either, but God. I can like see them visually.
As many times as I've played that game, and I can't remember what it's called right now. But anyway, the lore surrounding those guys was just crazy to me, and I love space travel. I love, like Star Wars, Star Trek, all that stuff's really cool to me. And this kind of blended everything together and just took it to another level. And I thought part 2 built on that really well and perfected a lot of things in the first game that were, kind of clunky. It smoothed them out, man. It just smoothed everything out. Now, Mass Effect 3 was a little bit of a drop off, not in terms of like, graphics or anything, but I feel like the end of the story was a little bit of a letdown.
That's like the major complaint, right?
I still had fun. I still loved it. I still appreciate it. But I was like, I don't know. I guess like some of the wind was taken out of my sails at the end of that thing, where I was like, okay, well, I guess this is it.
Yeah, dude. So I guess did I mishear you earlier? And you said that did you say that you don't typically play like open world kind of games like that?
Well, I hadn't played anything on that scale.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Zelda and things like that. I was familiar with Final Fantasy. I played Final Fantasy. So I knew about RPGs and stuff.
Gotcha.
But most everything, or at least a lot of my favorite games, had been platformers or simulators or like, I don't know, just very linear games. It was, I'd played Final Fantasy and stuff, but I wasn't in love with it. I had played Legend of Zelda, which was probably the closest thing to
right.
that. And I loved Legend of Zelda, and I think that probably helped that you took and made it like I had the sci-fi aspect, which was almost new to me as far as gaming, because I hadn't played a whole lot of not like high science fiction, like
right,
like it was like in depth and serious, a lot of tech involved. That was new to me in a way that really interested me.
Yeah. So you mentioned I'm always curious, right? When you got these RPG games where you can part of it is making your own character.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just curious, Mickey, whenever you make a character in games like this, do you make a male or a female? I'm always curious about that.
I usually make a male. I usually pick something close to me. Like I'll try to make it look like me if I can. Like,
gotcha.
I don't usually go off the rails. Maybe I'm basic like that. But like, if I have options, you're playing like one of these high fantasy RPGs, and it's like you could be an orc, you can be all these amazing things. It's like I'm just gonna be a human warrior. I love the tank, man. I'm a tank guy when it comes to those kind of games.
Gotcha. Yeah, dude. That's funny. Okay, so Mickey plays as Mickey when he plays the RPGs. I gotcha. No, it makes sense, dude. So like, whenever I play a game like that, I don't know why, but I always flip it to a female. I just like being like just a badass woman, just kicking everybody's ass, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I typically do. But that's cool. So you mentioned Mass Effect, obviously one of your favorite franchises. one of the sequels that you didn't really touch on, I was curious. Did you get a chance to play Mass Effect Andromeda or?
I did, and I liked it. It was Mass Effect, you know what I mean, like in spirit, and I guess I didn't connect on a level that I did with, Shepard's story in 1, 2, 3, and that whole thing, but I still liked it. It had some interesting aspects, and it was one of those things. I played it one time, and I was like, okay, I played it. That's cool.
Yeah, that game from the Mass Effect fans, it sounds like that one is definitely not touching the other three in terms of quality.
No.
And then, I mean, when that game came out, I just remember all the crazy videos and the glitches and the bugs and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like that game might have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
It did, and also, I mean, I think it's because Mass Effect was new. Like Mass Effect 1 was something new, and 2 build on that, and even though 3 was a letdown, it was something else. So like, it was just kind of like, here's some more. It's a little different, but here's some more. And it was at that time, I guess maybe the magic had worn off. Yeah,
in the lore of like this, like they're going to the Andromeda Galaxy. I think that's super cool and had a lot of possibilities. But yeah, we'll have to see where they go from it. I don't even know if they're making like another one right now. I don't even know.
I don't know. The only thing they did, I think they released like the remastered trilogy or something.
Oh, right.
At one time. I didn't partake in that. I've got all 3 games. I can play them anytime I want. The graphics aren't a big deal in games to me. Story is a big deal in games.
For sure. So you earlier mentioned Zelda as one of your favorite franchises, and then obviously we've been talking about Mass Effect here. So is there any other like franchises that you would put up like in the Zelda Mass Effect kind of tier?
Played a lot of Need for Speed. I really like Need for Speed games.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Let's go with, I mean, obviously Mario. I've played everything Mario released.
Yep.
But that's
so like in Mario. I'm always curious too. In like the Mario franchise, what are some like the games that stick out to you, like that you remember more fondly than maybe other ones?
I mean, we talked about Mario 64.
Yeah.
But I would Super Mario World on SNES and Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES.
Yep.
Those are really 3 of my favorite Mario games. Mario Sunshine was okay because it was different, but I had a hard time getting used to the whole water sprayer, like
the pack or whatever.
Yeah. It was hard to get used to that. Although I really enjoyed that game. It was kind of fun, kind of nice and light, and it was a different world. It was something different, which was cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I noticed you didn't mention, and maybe it's because you haven't played them, but I'm just curious. You didn't mention Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy.
That is one Mario game I haven't played.
Okay.
Which is funny. Both of my kids have played it, and I've watched them play it, so I kind of...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it was. Maybe I was watching them play it, and I was like, I don't really care.
Maybe it's like the dad thing, right? It's like, the kids are playing, whatever.
Yeah. Some games, I'll just watch you guys play. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. So Zelda. So it was interesting to me that Need for Speed jumped out to you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like a huge racing game fan?
I do like racing games. I love racing simulators like Gran Turismo and
right.
Need for Speed's a lot of fun. Need for Speed Underground 2. Everyone will remember how great that game was back then on PlayStation 2. And Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. I enjoyed that game. I like any game like Grand Theft Auto 2 where you can run from the cops. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't do too much of that in real life. But...
No. I think that's, you get to live out that fantasy because it's always been like that. It's like, man, I just want to let loose in a city with a car. Everybody get out of the way. let me just like haul ass and try to not die.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like racing games for me, man, it's never been one of the genres that I've been drawn to.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Forza Horizon's probably like the closest.
Those are good games, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I tend to go to more of the arcade racers instead of like the Sims.
Yeah.
The Sim type racers. So yeah, Forza Horizon's definitely one of my favorite racing games.
It's good.
But yeah, hey Mickey. So we're as we're closing out here, dude. we're hitting the 30-minute mark. I was just curious, man. You got any other video game memories that you want to throw out there?
Let's go. Let's see. I remember. I'll give you a couple.
Yeah.
I remember when Mortal Kombat first came out for Sega Genesis.
Nice.
My parents would not buy it for me for under any circumstance. They were kind of conservative in that way. So
they fell for like the Senate hearings and all that stuff. Yeah.
But kid down the street, his parents were cool with it, so I would always go down there and be like, we're just gonna go play outside, but we would play Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And getting to experience that was really cool and interesting. And it all that stuff made it probably more popular, how like violent it was and how it became like a controversy. Made you want to play it more. It was forbidden, so I gotta do it now. And I remember after that, Mortal Kombat 2 came out, and I was able to like wedge in there. I was like, "Come on, man!" Because I was a little bit older. I was like, "Just let me get the game." And
like you're gonna play it at your friend's house, right? Like,
yeah, I think I even like chipped in some birthday money, and we were able to get it. So that was the first one I got.
Yep.
And yeah, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. I played a lot of Mortal Kombat. What's another one?
Well, so real quick though, remind me, was the Genesis one? Was that the one that had blood, and then like the NES didn't, or something? Right.
You're right.
Gotcha.
And that was one of my like talking points. Like there won't be blood in it. They still didn't go for it. But I think Mortal Kombat 2 did have blood on the SNES, so it was whatever. But you could turn it off. That was a selling point too. I was like, you can turn that graphic off, like it won't show any blood at all.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like you're a pretty big Mortal Kombat fan. Who is your main, right? Like who is that guy that you just consistently good at? Doesn't matter.
It's usually Johnny Cage.
Okay, yeah, right on, dude. Nothing wrong with that, dude. Love Johnny Cage.
I like playing with Scorpion too, but there was always something about Johnny Cage. I think I like this character too. Like it was just fun playing with him and being flamboyant, and he had some cool moves like the nut shot, which was really awesome, and that spoke to me, man. I was like, I like this.
Yeah, dude. So like when it comes to fighting games, definitely like the NetherRealm fighting games, Injustice and Mortal Kombat. I tend to like those more. And then looking forward to later this year, they're doing Mortal Kombat 1, which I guess is like a reboot of the whole thing. So looking forward to that. That might be like the first Mortal Kombat in a while that I get into. So definitely look forward to that one. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, dude, I don't know. I think that'll do it for us here.
Okay.
Memory card. Episode number 6. So, Mickey, I got to give you your time to shine here near the end, dude. You got where can people find you? And do you got any, like, projects that you want to give an extra shout out to? And you guys can find Mickey's links down in the description. Make sure you check them out.
Thanks. Yeah, so you mentioned it at the beginning. I'm Mickey, but also known as Cell Phone Wallet Keys on social media like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. As far as things going on right now, so with the strike, the SAG and WAG strike, really not doing a whole lot of movie stuff, which is what I normally focus on content-wise. But I am doing Did You Know, like, I'm doing some retro video games and stuff like that.
I caught your Grand Theft Auto one, dude. That was sick. Yeah. That was great.
So I'm trying to shift to that for right now until we can get back into the movie game.
Yeah, dude.
Other than that, I mean, not a whole lot popping. I'll be at Raleigh GalaxyCon. If anyone listening will be there this weekend, stop by and say, hey, man, like we're gonna be out there having a good time.
Yeah, man. Definitely check out Cell Phone Wallet Keys. I said this when I met you in Chicago too. I mean, that's just a genius name, dude. Has that been like your screen name for like a while, or did you come up with that recently, dude? It's genius.
No, it was a long time ago. Probably like it kind of one of the things that sucks is like Adam Sandler came out with that Phone Wallet Key song, and so now everyone thinks like I took that. I was doing Cell Phone Wallet Keys before that.
There you go.
I was on it before that, but I guess it wasn't big enough back then to matter. So. Yeah, I've been doing that on Facebook for a long time. Like that's where it started, and then moved into Instagram, and then TikTok, and now.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, like I said, make sure you check out Cell Phone Wallet Keys. Thank you, Mickey, for joining me
Yeah,
for
man. Thanks for
Memory
having me.
Card.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And thank you guys for listening. Definitely tune back in. We'll be having another episode in 2 weeks. Not sure who the guest is, but definitely check it out. Thanks for watching.